There's so many cases of brands that missed the boat, right? And their competitors, Netflix didn't miss the boat. Compare Netflix to Blockbuster. So I think, the smarter marketers are saying, hey, we don't want to be like Blockbuster.
I am excited to introduce today's guests, Daniel Barry and Nodo Ivanidze, also known, by the way, as Nodo. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Daniel is the co-host with Nodo on Beyond Pixels and the founder and CEO of a Web3 and Metaverse Marketing Network. And Nodo is the other co-host of Beyond Pixels and the co-founder of Metaviu, the leading UGC games marketplace. It's a pleasure to have two guests today, and two guests who are very practiced at talking with each other, because that takes the load off of me. I don't have to talk as much, and it will undoubtedly make this episode more entertaining and informative. Before we get into talking about the world of 3D engagement and immersive platforms, I always like to learn a little bit about our guests that people generally do not know. And I think, Nodo, there's a part of your background that's connected to music and sort of a fun way that you were pretty active in the world of music and performance. What was that all about?
So basically, I really wanted my home country, where I'm from, Republic of Georgia, to push forward in the electronic music festival and all the young people to have access to the famous DJs around the world. And this was my hobby. I loved the dancing music. And then for 4 years, I was organizing one of the large electronic music festivals in my country, bringing DJs around the world. And it was a fun experience. It enabled me to meet so many interesting people. And then, not many people know about it, but this is part of my life. I'm having fun, and still today I mostly sometimes still organize some of this kind of gatherings. So I'm pretty much into music and industry.
I love that. I mean, and people who know me personally are aware of this, but I would imagine some listeners are not. I actually met my wife at an electronic music club here in Los Angeles, in Hollywood. We were both big fans of EDM, and it was sort of coming on the scene. But the funny part is that I was actually there to produce a show of what was happening in the EDM culture. And I was running around trying to find people to be interviewed by our host. And there was a girl who seemed like she would be a good interviewee. And after the interview, I sort of abandoned my crew and spent much more time with the interviewee, and that is who I ended up marrying. I have a fondness for electronic music forever.
That's amazing.
So Dan, this is, I guess in some ways the opposite side of the same coin of everybody's dream in Los Angeles. A lot of people come here to be actors and to be celebrated for their talent as a performer in film or television. You were the other side of that. You had somebody actually pretend to be you. What was that?
So I used to have a publishing company in Chicago, and so I had a city magazine in Chicago. So Primal Fear, which starred Richard Gere and Edward Norton, was being filmed. And part of the storyline of the movie is they wanted Richard Gere to be interviewed by a local magazine, and it would be a cover story, etc. So at the end of the day, it was basically Reg Roger ended up portraying me in the movie, interviewing Richard Gere, like in a bar or whatever. And then on the production side, we ended up creating a cover story with Richard Gere and so forth. So I had the opportunity to meet with Richard Gere. We had to do the photography, et cetera, and so forth. So yeah, it was a fun experience. And it was interesting as we were preparing for this podcast. That way, it was a question is like, what's something that most people don't even know about, and I don't really talk about it that much. In fact, I don't even think I ever mentioned it to Nodo, so it's probably the first time. So yeah, it's like one of those things like how many people have been played, in a movie, right? So it's like, okay, this would be something interesting to bring up, especially in LA, now that you mentioned it.
100%. I mean, and I'm kind of thinking, who would I want to portray me when the movie is made about 3D platforms? Because that's going to be a real gripping film to go see, I'm certain.
Sure.
So no, yeah.
Well, have you decided?
Yeah, I'm not sure. All right. Well, speaking of 3D platforms, before we really start discussing what's happening in the world of 3D engagement, I think it would be helpful, now that we know a little about you personally, to know a bit about your background. So maybe you could just share, Daniel, and then Nodo, your professional history, what got you to this point, and a little bit more about Metaviu.
I'll not start when I was a kid. I got into let's just call it like the Web3 space. Back in 2017. I'm a marketer. I've always had a passion for marketing my entire life, and I've always had a passion for tech. So it's like whenever I can combine the two together, that's my happy place, right? But in 2022, I ended up attending a event in Barcelona where I was a speaker. It was a Web3 event, and Nodo was also a speaker at that event as well. So we ended up like meeting and ended up like going to some clubs, doing some dancing, listening to music. We kind of hit it off. So I agreed at that time to become a marketing advisor assisting Metaviu. At the time, Metaviu was basically, they had the largest advertising network for the Web3 Metaverse space, Decentraland, Sandbox, primarily doing like 3D billboards. So we started working together, and the next thing that they were then doing were like immersive games, immersive experiences on the decentralized platforms. And that then led to Metaviu then developing the first ever platform marketplace for experiences, and not just Web3, but like Roblox, Fortnite, etc. So Metaviu was the first company that did that. At the same time, again, with my passion for marketing and tech, I've kind of felt like the industry needs a community and resource hub especially for people who are just getting into the space. So I started developing Web3 and Metaverse Marketing, which is again a community and resource hub for creators, for brands, marketers, and the companies who are supplying the services to the industry.
Wow, amazing. And then I will be adding from my side to show our listeners my background. So I can call myself serial entrepreneur. So from 2010, I was launching my own businesses, and whenever I saw some potential coming in, I wanted one of the parts game changer or making the change in this space, right? So back in 2010, I was teaching companies how to do the digital advertising and create ads on Facebook and other channels. And then I was the only one at the time who was understanding, and my age groups there, right? Because nobody knew what Facebook is. And then now I feel the same thing is happening in this space. And then even myself, I always employ people in the age group of like 18, 20 who are teaching me now what's happening in the Roblox and Fortnite, right? But how we get to the Metaviu is that I was actively investing in Web3. That's how I was like also speaking in many conferences. And my biggest hobby is also sharing the education, what I'm learning. And I truly believe that in the early stages in every industry, there are key players and smart people. And if we are creating mastermind groups and community build-ups, that's the way of success and bringing more people into it. That's how also I met Dan, as he mentioned. And together with Metaviu, we also push the Beyond Pixels, which is we try to show people work of many amazing people, gaming studios, agencies, or brands around this space, and try to involve everybody globally. It's not only US, Europe, Asia, or anything, but we try to push these boundaries further. And that was my biggest motivation doing the Metaviu. First in the Web3 space, where we didn't have anything in the Metaverse side, but unfortunately, we all know how the traffic went in Decentraland and many other platforms. So we broadened our frontier, and we wanted to support many game studios showcase their games in front of the brands through the Metavius marketplace. So yeah, that's about me quickly.
So you sort of got into immersive spaces initially through the Web3 filter.
But Web3 space.
Right. And as that, as you said, as that world became a little bit less compelling, never really materialized in terms of audience size, you were able to essentially apply the same thought process and some of the same lessons learned to help brands and creators understand the opportunities in platforms that had begun to achieve a level of scale, with Roblox being a great example. Fortnite Creative, certainly a participant, and there are others, many that are emerging. And for those of us in the space, we're very hopeful that there will be 3 or 4 or 5 that have consequential scale, because that really will demonstrate that the vibrancy is there and the community is there to attract an ever-increasing number and breadth of brands and IP owners. And so on the way to that hopeful endpoint, there are a number of brands who have already started to make investments in these spaces. And I just wonder, in what you're seeing, particularly because you understood what brands were thinking about when they chose to make an investment in Web3 platforms, what is driving the decision making now when a marketer thinks about having a presence in Roblox? Where does that come from?
So first of all, I would go first then, if you wouldn't mind. So basically, I want to share what I see on the market, right? So basically, since we are talking with companies globally and also gaming studios, we really see the shift is happening. It's only not advertising in game, right? In-game advertising is existing for decades. Any company knows how to launch the ads through the different DSP or SSP platforms, right? But what is changing with the Roblox and Fortnite is what I always explain to the marketers, is that it's a new way how people socialize, get the education, make the businesses, and at the same time make friends and grow up, right? So in every other gaming platform, most of the times people just drop out when they grow up. But what's unique about the Roblox, even my cousins having friends in US, my friend has business partners from Georgia in Australia, and they are building the games, right? It's only not gaming platforms, but social gaming platforms. And at the same time, it's created by the users. And then majority of the Gen Alpha and Gen Z are spending the time there. This is already not a joke, right? Back in 2022, I was always talking about 5 branded activations, either on Decentraland or Sandbox. And back in 2023, we already have more than 800 cases brands did activations in Roblox, Fortnite, or any other platform, right? So brands are already understanding, and we see budgets are going there. Biggest problem is, like, since this space is so new, we need lots of cool companies like Superlink and many others who will be giving guidance to these brands. But I totally see the budgets are increasing. I was seeing the same shift happening back in 2010 when I was pushing companies to do the Facebook advertising, and then everybody was making fun. Why we need to be on Facebook? Why we need to have the business page? And now everybody is subscribed, right? We see these similar cases, and then I think that more and more time will come. We will see more automated solutions. And then right now, I can say very quickly that I see lots of brands, not only big ones, but medium and lower size, are trying to find solutions how not to miss this opportunity, talking with the Gen Alpha and Gen Z, who are basically spending most of their time on those new gaming platforms.
Oh, and to your point, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Matt.
No, Daniel. I know where you were. You were going to chime in. I think what I was going to suggest is that your perspective really on not only what Nodo shared, but why. So brands understood eventually why Facebook mattered, but they had to figure it out. What are brands figuring out right now that is convincing them that being in Roblox and other platforms matters?
Well, I would look at it from a couple of standpoints. One, if we look at it from a historical standpoint, right, and look at previous tech shifts, and again, Facebook, being part of the social media tech shift, and it's kind of funny, like Nodo mentioned Facebook. I remember early on trying to celebrate on Facebook, and they were going, "That's for my kids," right? And it was like not too long ago, I was bringing up Roblox, and it's like, "That's for my kids," right? It's like some brands just they're not really thinking that much, and that's for kids or whatever. And eventually, the kids, and this is the point that I'm going to make is if brands are serious about targeting Gen Z and Gen A, you got to go where they're at. And where are they at? They're in Roblox. They're in Minecraft. They're in Fortnite. So they're in these immersive platforms. So I think brands are starting to understand this more and more. I'm seeing like Ad Age and more, let's say, mainstream marketing type of companies are actually kind of addressing how to reach Gen Z and Gen A. I also think from a historical standpoint, if you go back in time and if you look at a company like Blockbuster, right, when Blockbuster made fun of Netflix. Like I remember there was a billboard. Blockbuster ran this like billboard, and it's like Netflix has algorithms, and then we have algorithms, which meant they call it a movie for you, right? And I think, Nokia. We could look back, and there's so many cases of brands that missed the boat, right? And their competitors, Netflix, didn't miss the boat. Compare Netflix to Blockbuster. So I think the smarter marketers are saying, "Hey, we don't want to be like Blockbuster. We don't want to be like Nokia. Let's dive in. Let's figure out, what this new paradigm of metaverse, 3D, UGC gaming is all about." So I think that's an element as well. So I think it's not wanting their competitors to get there before they do, and then the other is like understanding their audience is already there. You look at Roblox, Minecraft, and Fortnite. That's like around 750 million monthly users. That's a lot of people. So,
sure is. Where I thought you were going, not to cut you off, but where I thought you were going, which is an interesting kind of perspective, perhaps, in the comparisons with Nokia and Blockbuster. In a sense, is it possible that a company like Meta is looking at this little play area called Roblox and thinking, "Oh, that's really nice. We tried the metaverse. It's not really going anywhere. Roblox is only ever going to get so meaningful. We're just going to, kind of stay away from the 3D space and invest in AI and keep cranking up our algorithms to drive, user engagement." Do you think there's any risk that a platform like Roblox starts to take a bite out of Meta's business and audience the same way that a Netflix started to take a bite out of Blockbuster?
So my generation is culturally tied to Facebook, right? So it's my major platform where I grew up. And then generation, which is between ages like 7 to 15, that they are home, right? They even don't know about the Meta. They might use TikTok or Instagram, but that's why Meta couldn't realize what they were planning, right? So they were targeting bigger age group. And for me, I will be digital advertising person forever. I won't be playing as long Roblox. I don't have any personal relationship with Roblox. But while talking with so many people in this industry, that they have very personal connection. So that's what I see. Roblox really has a chance to take over the Meta, and Meta either will be buying them out at some point, like they did with WhatsApp and Instagram, because they tried hard, but they couldn't access this Gen Alpha and this age group, right? They are already too much tied to Fortnite and Roblox. That's why I feel that this shift is inevitable. And then any marketer who is asking me the questions, if they have even like kids, my first question is that how much time your kids are playing in Roblox? Everybody tells me, oh yeah, my kids are playing. So even in marketers, what shift I saw is that whoever has the kids, they fully understand this space. People who don't have the kids and they don't play, they don't have the kind of attachment right away to the Roblox, they don't understand that we have to explain. This is another like finding I found, but I really want to say that that's why Meta didn't have any success in this space. This all emotional connection.
I mean, I think you're onto something, and we've talked about it in other episodes here, but the average incoming age of the CEO in a US company is 54.
Yes.
That's Generation X. As a member of Generation X, we didn't grow up with multiplayer gaming environments. We couldn't get online and play with our friends down the street or around the world. And as a result, I think most CEOs and even CMOs who are probably arguably 5 to 7 years younger don't have a native feel for what it means to have a social network inside of a 3D environment, predominantly games.
Yes.
And so as decision makers age and today's CEOs and CMOs move into chairmanships and, you know, retiree stages of life, and the incoming C-level decision makers are millennials who really experienced multiplayer gaming as teenagers and mobile as teenagers and 20-somethings. Suddenly the comfort zone around these platforms where socialization is happening alongside play in digital environments is going to be much more significant. And as a result, I do think that dollars are going to flow into those spaces. But Daniel, you know, what do you think?
I wouldn't count Meta out, to be quite honest with you. I've actually been somewhat impressed with some of the stuff that Zuckerberg has done recently. And I think sometimes what Meta is saying publicly might have more to do with their stock price than actually what's going on in the back rooms or whatever. I mean, they still have Quest 3.
Sure.
I'm quite excited about the next pair of like Ray-Ban smart glasses that could eventually, hopefully, incorporate AR. So I think Meta is going to be a force to be reckoned with. I mean, they took they made their, I think, operating system for their headsets open source or whatever. So I mean, and Zuckerberg was trying to do like a coin, like a Web3 coin or whatever at one point. So I think he's out there always trying to be innovative. So I'm not going to say that they're out of the picture. I think they're going to be a major force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. They will be in the picture, but they might acquire rather than build themselves. So that's the strategy. Like the last couple of years, yes, they've done it before. So yeah,
no, I think you're right. Look, there's no question that Meta is a force to be reckoned with, and the performance of that company financially over the past year to year and a half is nothing short of remarkable, and it's totally transformed the business profile of the organization, and frankly, what Zuckerberg has accomplished is almost more impressive than what he'd accomplished, prior to that time, given a lot of the pressures he was facing and some of the headwinds that existed regulatory wise and within the economy. But going back to sort of thinking about the shift of marketing dollars, do you feel that it has anything to do with the decision makers who are in place now versus the decision makers who are coming? Nodo, it seemed like maybe you were kind of heading in that direction, but more from the consumer angle, where because consumers are now spending more and more time making friends, keeping friends, engaging with friends in platforms like Roblox versus Facebook, not Meta as a company, but Facebook, the social network. Is there a shift in, sort of the professional executive transition that is sort of similar to the shift that you're seeing on the consumer level in spending more time and dedicating more of their lives and finding more resources and fulfillment in these 3D spaces?
So like I would say that the management will be slowly changing, but it's not the biggest stopping problem, because back then in 2010, again, CEOs and chairmen didn't have any understanding about the digital advertising, but they were trusting us and following us. This shift had, and then at the time, the new positions were born, like social media manager, digital advertising manager. Now we will see the new positions which will be occupied by those kids grew up in the Roblox or Fortnite, like social gaming manager, or like page man. It's a game, right? Instead of like Facebook page, it's a bit complicated. And then, as we've seen in every ages, right? So it was radio advertising, newspaper, and then TV came, and then digital advertising. But none of them disappeared, right? There are companies who are doing, again, newsletter advertising for some specific age group, and then they are doing digital advertising for millennials or whatever. And then they will be doing gaming activations for the Gen Alpha and Gen Z. And at the end of the day, then we'll have different percentages of each channel. So I'm totally saying that immersive advertising channel, let's just say, will be increasing and more bucks will be going there, more budgets. But right now, it's too much of the manual work. So it's not automated. It takes lots of time to execute, lots of manual work, like lots of production time. And I know many companies, including Metaviu and Super League, are pushing finding the cost-effective solutions and how to automate these things to make it easier for any type of brand to do the activations in the immersive spaces. That's the biggest problem I see at this moment in this space, because everything going to manual work, which is not scalable at this stage. This is the biggest problem at this, but it will be changing. So
I think that's right. We do. You're absolutely right. We think about that a lot. I mean, the reality is, for a business under a certain size, for whom Gen Z is a critical consumer segment, if a marketing manager on the team can't create and manage a presence on a platform, it's very hard to commit to that platform.
Very hard. Very.
So how do we get there? Like, we have tools, right, that we're, increasingly pushing towards automation. Ultimately, what does a platform like Roblox need to offer so that SMBs who care about younger audiences, or the possibility of Roblox's audience aging up, what needs to exist on the platform that's not there yet, that really facilitates that expansion, and brands, of all sizes and shapes, start knowing that they can afford to create a presence on the platform?
I would, and I don't know, I have some thoughts on this. I think some of the things that Roblox is doing in terms of pushing now for video advertising, within games, et cetera, will help to a degree. At least it's getting brands in. I'm not sure how excited I am about it, but it's part of, I think, the whole process of getting more brands in. And kind of getting back to your previous question, like when Nodo and I were at that conference in 2022, and we've talked about this since, it was like we were all talking about, like, I think there were like 20 speakers, and almost all of us were talking about the same brand, right? It was like Nokia and Starbucks and Adidas, et cetera. But now, but then it's like you go to the end of like 2023, and it was like, I was for our Beyond Pixel show, I was kind of like doing like what happened in 2023 with brands, and I was like, all of a sudden I had a 200-page deck, and I'm like, crap, look at all the brands that have come into the space. And I think as more and more brands come into the space, it's like, okay, like Nokia is doing something. I mean, not Nokia, but Nike, they're going to say, what's Adidas doing? Now, all of a sudden, like Reebok's got to do something and Puma's got to do something, right? So I think as more brands start coming in, other competitors are saying, okay, what the hell are they doing? We better we better kind of like get into the space too. So, I mean, the kind of like what you're talking about before. It's like, companies do have like their social media teams or whatever, right? So, I do think that there's going to, I guess and I know it's something that Metaviu offers, and I think I saw it on your website too, where brands, instead of building an experience or a game from scratch, can basically rent or borrow an experience, right? So I think these kind of opportunities, okay, go in for a month, 2 months, 3 months, where it's almost more like a campaign, right? Like what they're normally used to. I think you'll start seeing more and more of that happening as brands are just kind of getting into the space. I think those big budget brands that feel like they need to make their dynamic statements will of course continue to do it, but I think we'll start seeing more and more of these. Okay, let's test it this way. Let's test it this way.
Amazing. And then I will be quickly adding from my side. First of all, like itself, Roblox, they found out one day that suddenly from the gaming, they are becoming at the same time social media platform and then advertising. And then we all know gamers globally hate advertising. So that's a known fact. If you ask any gamers, they hate advertising. So now Roblox team is in huge challenge. How to bring the advertising in a way not to angry their customers because they love Roblox. And then we all know when Facebook got full of ads, we got very angry, right? So they are selling our data, they are blah, blah, blah. So Roblox is trying to slowly experiment with the traditional methods like adding billboards. And basically that's what we were doing also in Decentraland, like having many billboards. But it's something from the past. Nobody is excited about the billboards. That's the easy start. But another challenge is that production of these 3D models, right? So this is also huge manual work. And what I'm excited about and where I see the biggest challenges will happen, together with like what Daniel mentioned and what we do, is that I'm talking with amazing generative AI startups who are pushing boundaries to generate 3D models, environments. And then as we are creating marketing campaign now through the digital spaces in Facebook, I envision that Super League, Metaviu, any others in this space, either Roblox might be adding, they are working on that, enabling brands to do the integrations in game with innovative ways without doing too much manual work, not billboards. Imagine like Coca-Cola can be able to generate their vending machine and then through the API and SDK directly integrate into some games. And then users can be connected through Flaunt or any other solution to the real life. So I see this space should be interconnected, physical and virtual, but we just don't have the hardware and software there yet, right? So we see these developments coming in, and then currently what we do at this stage, like enabling brands to partner up with couple games, do the short-term activations, that's the maximum we can do. Technology is not there to automate these things, right? And then we should be very careful. We are talking with the kids, right? So we should be very careful how we identify their age, how we do the advertising with them. And then at the same time, Roblox is actively working on the age verification. And then they are slowly trying to bring brands which is 18 plus. They cannot advertise now, but the Roblox wants also to grow up. It won't be only platform for the kids. So that's the problems I see. And then there are solutions coming up, but I don't expect these automated solutions will be here at least 1-2 years from now.
So this is an interesting question. I'm going to ask you to maybe make a bit of a prediction in a certain way. We talked about the changes that occurred in Meta. There are obviously a lot of changes that have occurred in other platforms that sometimes get lumped into the social platform bucket, but I often think of a bit differently, like YouTube.
Yes.
And I wonder if you think that Roblox and Fortnite Creative and other platforms are more likely to become important to brands in the way that YouTube is important to brands, or the way that TikTok is important to brands. And I'll explain the distinction. So in all of these platforms, ones that are mature, like the two I mentioned, there is a certain amount of resource from a marketer that goes towards their organic presence on the platform. And then there's a certain amount of resource that goes toward their paid presence on the platform. And of course, you were talking about the past when Facebook really cranked up their advertising and started to squeeze out all of the, apps and games from the feed. They really fine-tuned the monetization engine, and brands were compelled to invest much more heavily in their paid presence than their organic presence. You look at YouTube versus TikTok. TikTok, the investment is at least more weighted towards a brand's organic presence. I'm not saying that brands spend more on organic versus paid, but relative to YouTube, I would argue that to get an outcome on TikTok, a brand is spending a higher percentage of their dollars on their organic presence than they are spending on their organic presence on YouTube. And that conversely means that on YouTube, to get an outcome, a brand is spending a higher percentage of their YouTube investment on paid alternatives and mechanisms relative to the percentage of their total investment on TikTok that is dedicated toward paid. So where are we headed with Roblox and Fortnite Creative? Are brands going to invest more in their organic presence on these platforms relative to their paid presence, or vice versa? Where will we be when we start to hit some of those scalable thresholds that you're talking about?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. So I'll go then, and then I know you will have some points.
Have fun.
So first of all, what is a bit different is that Gen Alpha is basically 56% of them is influenced by their favorite icon influencers or creators, right? However we're going to call it. So if on my millennials or any other group, traditional advertising channels are working well, for those people, their icons means a lot, right? That's why in TikTok, we have boost of creators, influencers, and brands are using activism. So, and then now trend is that brands should be looking organic. So for this audience, paid ads in a way that like screens or billboards doesn't work anymore. That's why brand should be understanding the culture of the Roblox. And right now it's very difficult to have the organic presence for the brand in Roblox or Fortnite or Minecraft, because they should be understanding culture, gaming culture, and many other things. That's why there are many amazing partners they are working with. But at the end of the day, I think that organic presence will be key in this phase, because all this Gen Alpha, even though they trust influencers and etc., they have perfect sense of checking the facts, analyze research, and then one of the smartest groups I've ever worked with. So I'm very excited about them. And then I think organic presence will be higher in this space rather than like only paid advertising. So then
I guess if I had to go in one direction, I would probably say more like YouTube. I think TikTok has this amazing algorithm that will, it just takes organic content and it like amplifies it more than any other social media platform, right? But as more and more games are being added to Roblox, it's like, okay, how do you get people to go to the games, right? Much like on YouTube, you make really, really great videos. Are you going to get people to watch them? So I feel like you still need great videos and you still need a great game. If you get people to, go to the game, but then they're like, okay, this is a crappy game, I'm never going to come back anymore. Well, okay, then all the money you spend, to drive the traffic is kind of useless, right? The same thing with YouTube. I mean, if you got a great video and you're driving traffic to it, okay, now you're going to get like word of mouth, you're going to get repeat visits or whatever. People subscribe to the channel. So to directly answer your question, I would say more like YouTube. Because I think you got to pay people to discover it. So
it sounds like you have slightly different points of view, which I like. Actually, that's kind of the joy of having two guests. I'm gonna switch topics just a little bit, and let's talk about the the user experience, or I guess I would say the impact of the user experience that so many young people are having in these platforms. They're spending enormous amounts of time in 3D spaces. All of that time generally is spent in environments that are not owned by brands. And so if I'm a brand and I know that 3D engagement is a comfort zone for the audience I'm seeking, when I successfully attract members of that audience to my owned and operated channels, my app, my website, maybe even my physical location, do I need to start incorporating 3D engagement into my owned channels so that I can tap into that level of comfort that I know exists in those massive platforms? Or is that not important for a marketer?
I think it's extremely important.
Yes.
I mean, we're if you're looking to target Gen Z, Gen A, this is what they love. They're there for a reason. They love that environment. And if you're not going to meet them where they're at in a way that they truly enjoy, I don't think they're going to respond.
Yep. I totally agree. You cannot reach them out on Meta or Facebook. You cannot reach them out on many platforms. Okay, TikTok is good channel for them, but they even spend relatively more time on Roblox or Fortnite than TikTok, right? It might be a pretty confusing space at the beginning to the marketers. When you imagine, I always try to talk about everybody talking about, oh, this is the amazing space, but what's the hardships we are facing, right? Is there solution providers or also brands, right? So basically, for the marketer, it's very difficult, first of all, where to start? From where, okay, I want this 3D strategy into my channels, whom to talk with? How many companies should I involve? If I go to Publicis Group or any other big Dentsu or any other big agencies, will be they able to take care of my new needs? Because it's even huge agencies still don't understand this space well, right? So this is questions which is coming, and that's why we are here, right? So, and many amazing companies, that's why I always push for collaboration. Something Super League knows, something I know, something Gang knows, and many others. There are not many companies in this space yet, Geek and many others. That's why we do the Beyond Pixels, we try to education, but at the end of the day, marketers will be using 3D strategy. It's inevitable, 3D is coming into our life as much as we never had it before, so yeah.
I tend to agree with you, and at the same time, I think about that mobile screen, and I don't have at the top of my head the percentage of time spent on phones versus laptops for Gen Z, but I know it's up above 70% of their activities.
Around 78.
78. Thank you very much. That I can use going forward. So 78% of time spent on digital devices is through a phone. And will the web experience belonging to a brand, we mentioned Nike, Adidas, Walmart just released a very interesting, or launched, I should say, a very interesting 3D e-commerce section of their website. They also tested an immersive commerce solution inside Roblox. I still think we're in both cases a ways off from, having evidence that an investment in either one of those areas will drive conversions, transactions, customer loyalty at the same level that we're sort of used to seeing in a Web2 e-commerce experience. But I'm so excited that a company of that size and scale and magnitude is paving the way and pioneering here. It's helping us all learn. Because I do think we're going to get there. I think I really am aligned with you. Any final thoughts just about, where that 3D engagement may first appear? Will it be commerce? Will there be, does 3D have any presence in sort of a content and information setting on the web? Any further further perspectives?
Yeah, I would say like entertainment itself will be a huge part of the spaces because it creates totally new experiences. And really quickly want to mention, right, totally value and kudos to those early adopter companies, big names who are experimenting and spending big budgets to pave the way for others. And then most of their experiences are experiential, right? Not transactional. That's the difference between Roblox and traditional media channels. Right now, we are not tracking too much of the transaction, like how many people we converted, but it's more giving additional new type of experience to your customers, Gen Z and Gen Alpha in this case. But like I've seen like digital concerts happening with virtual glasses. I have organized a couple of them myself. And then it brings so new level of engagement. And then it was not imaginable before. So I think entertainment and e-commerce are one of the first industries we can be embracing. Travel tried a little bit even a couple of years ago with the VR headsets. There were hundreds of startups offering virtual tours in any country before you visiting it, but this never took off. I don't know. Even in 2014, we were building some applications on Oculus Rift, first version for this, but it never materialized in the cases I know. So entertainment and e-commerce in my case. What about you, Dan?
I agree with you, entertainment. And I thought, we had Josh Newman on our Beyond Pixels show, and he was talking about the award-winning activation with Imagine Dragons, and I just thought that was awesome. And
yes,
I do, to a large extent, I think the hardware, it's like hardware, software, what they're doing is going to have a lot to do with like the answer to this particular question, I think. But overall, I think entertainment will be huge. I mean, imagine if you have a VR headset and you could be at a Taylor Swift concert and you feel like you're there with your friends and you really, I mean, it's real. You're there with your friends and you're like chatting to them. You paid $50 and there's 20, 30, 40, 50 million other people in that experience or whatever, right? It's like,
crazy.
You didn't have to drive. You didn't have to do parking. You didn't have to do a whole bunch of other things, right? And you got the ticket. That's probably the hardest thing. But no, I think entertainment. I think sports. And again, that again being in entertainment. But I feel if there is going to be a leading, let's say, segment vertical, I would have a tendency to agree that it's going to be entertainment. But I think everything is in play. And I think some verticals will be quicker and do better than others. But eventually, at the end of the day, they'll all be there.
So we're going to wrap up this great discussion. And I'm just going to close us out here by asking each of you if you can share one message, one piece of advice, one takeaway that you would like a marketer to have in mind as they're either considering expanding their commitment to these platforms or getting in for the first time. What's something they have to get right? What is one thing they have to do correctly in order to not have that expansion or that experiment be disappointing?
Okay. I will have two kind of main recommendations to any marketer who will be listening or trying to enter this space. First of all, play Roblox or Fortnite yourself. Couple of the big, you can easily check the top branded and top natural games from the Roblox on the marketplace, right? Play yourself and then do the research, and then to save the time and save money, work with companies who have history and who already understand the space. If you don't have enough time to do the research by yourself, there are a couple companies you can be working with, and then research and then involve yourself. That's the biggest learning I can recommend to the people who are involved in marketing with many brands.
I love that. I think, Daniel, before we get your answer there, Nodo, I think so few people really take the time to do that. Going into a Roblox game, if you are over the age of, let's call it 35, 40, can be a mind-numbing experience only because the movement around the space and the often chaotic activity that you encounter is overwhelming. And it's very difficult to understand how to, get around the space and realize what the prompts within the UI are intending for you to do and what the purpose of the experience happens to be. But you are absolutely right that if a marketer who wants to be in this space wants to get it right and they have not spent time there, they're not going to get it as right. Even when they trust a company like Super League or, any of the companies that we compete with, or they trust advisors like you guys, they'll do fine. We're really smart. We know what we're doing, but they won't get it as right as somebody who has gone in there themselves.
And then as a last point, I will add one experience. One of the marketing manager of one company was very interested. So I took her in Decentraland, and she was like depressed, like, why nobody is talking with me? There's a microphone feature, but in Decentraland, nobody ever speaks. They just type, right? So you should know this culture at least to see, and after that, more ideas are coming, right? So yes, it's it's like mandatory, and then final words to you.
I tend to agree with both of you guys in terms of what you just said. To me, it's like research. Try to understand the space as much as you can. I have 2 teenage daughters. If you've got kids who are on Roblox, have them teach you. Have them like, hey, how does this work or whatever. And if you don't have kids, maybe your neighbor does, or your brother or your sister. I think just kind of like, hey, can you show me what's your favorite game on Roblox? Show me how it goes, blah, blah, blah. So I agree with like Nodo 100%, but I think actually seeing it through the eyes of somebody who loves the game and see this, I can do this, and look, I can do this, and there's Julie, she's over there. I mean, so I feel like the experience is 100% something that every brand should do before they jump into the space. And then again, whether you're going to use a company like Geek in terms of helping you with like, okay, this is your brand and this is platforms, that you should be thinking about, blah, blah, blah. To me, data is really, really important, especially for bigger brands in terms of helping them make their decisions of what to do, how to do, et cetera, and so forth. And then again, partnering with companies who have successful track records. Again, Super League obviously being one of the major ones.
Daniel and Nodo, you guys have been terrific. I really enjoyed the conversation. There is so much to draw from this discussion for anybody who is trying to be more successful in the language of 3D engagement, as we like to call it. So thank you again for spending this time with us. And I know our listeners have gotten terrific value out of the discussion. I look forward to speaking again soon, and best of luck in how your business in immersive platforms continues to grow.
All right. Thanks for having us.
Thanks a lot. Thank you. It was amazing.
Thank you very much for watching today's episode. You can listen to the full unedited version on your favorite podcast platform. Please remember to like and subscribe for updates, and we look forward to having you back for our next episode. We will be taking a break next week for July 4th, back on July 11th with our next episode. In the meantime, hope you get a chance to listen to some of our previous episodes featuring amazing thought leaders and personalities who I am privileged to call friends in this space.